life. Let me play out this tune. Turn this
This track is delicious, dude.
Thank you. Yo, we're gonna get started in just a minute, everybody. We're actually sitting here ready. We're just waiting for people to show up. Yo, Pistol, what's up? Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Alckemy. I am joined by the one and only Fracture. How are you, man? Thank you so much for coming on. Oh, I got this.
I'm good. I'm good, dude. Honestly, I'm incredibly happy to be here. I feel like even before we sort of came on, just catching up about some of the stuff that you brought up, just going into the craft, talking about the scene, video game soundtrack, etc. I haven't had much of an opportunity. I haven't had much of an opportunity, I think, to even just talk or express my feelings about these things for years. Honestly, for years. It takes a particular community of people, I think, who are passionate about this stuff to really get into the nitty gritty, and I'm just excited to do that, dude. Like I haven't had an opportunity to do that, I think, ever. So
man,
yeah, man,
that's
happy to be here.
I'm not gonna lie, like I'm almost disappointed to hear that because that's all we do here. You know, we just talk about nothing, and to be like, it's almost like, where have you been? To which, welcome. This community, I will say, has a lot of really wonderful people, and not only, like, you know, I might be running the show of like making tutorials and streaming and stuff, but I have learned so much from everybody in here. Shout out to Zane, shout out to Michael, shout out to Pistolin, Crumble Noob. I don't recognize you, but welcome to the channel. But I like my regulars and the people that are active in my Discord and all that stuff is just a vibe, and that's something that we thrive on. So please, by all means, anytime you want to come on the channel, anytime you want to talk about something, Zane and Ada and Cage were on a few days ago. Zane being one of those people, and we kind of did the same thing,
Gotcha.
like I was telling you. So, hey, Autistic, hello, NX, welcome. So, first of all, something that is really cool and really unique is I think that you are actually one of the only producers, other than maybe Aspen, that is not necessarily like 100% in the neuro world. If it's okay to just, to announce you, like your main thing is progressive breaks, trance, progressive
Yeah.
house, lots of video game inspired music, and you have what, 15 years now of tracks that I've been listening to for
Yeah.
over a decade, which is crazy because you still look so young, and I think you started
I
at a
mean,
really young age.
when you say it that way, man, it makes it seem kind of insane, but it hasn't really felt that long for me. But yeah, I actually started. It's crazy, man. I started making music in. I shit you not. I started making music in 4th grade. Like that's when I must have been 8 or 9 years
Holy
old.
cow, bro.
And it was a game to me. It wasn't actually. I didn't even know what the heck music production was. It was the same time I got introduced to like Windows Movie Maker. A lot of
Really?
people made like
Yeah.
anime music videos and stuff like that when they were like
Dreamscape.
8 or 9 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like did stuff like that, right? So, for me, it was I have an older brother who's about 6 years older than me, and he was really into technology, and we were both like obsessed with our computer, and he got into he got some music production software. He got Cubase, which I think was a mistake for me in the
Same.
long term, but he introduced me to Cubase when I was like 9 years old, and to me it was like I just want to make cool sounds, like I just finished playing Jazz Jackrabbit, and the intro music for the game was great, and I want to like, how can I make something that sounds like that? Let's just figure it out. Honestly, man, it just started from there. It was like, how do you experiment when you're a kid? When you're a kid, you have like infinite time, right? Zero responsibilities, infinite time.
Right.
You just experiment. So that's what eventually turned into just years of me putting out music. Like I have a ton of junk, obviously. I have a ton of like
Same.
stuff I made early on. But over time, it was iterative, and eventually after a few years, by the time I was like a teenager, it was like, yeah, I actually kind of spent like 3 or 4 years honing my craft a bit. Like, the amount of time it took for me to imagine a sound, like that's really all it is, right? It's like shortening the time of like imagining a sound and then getting it into your DAW. So it
Yeah.
was just like, from like being 9 years old to being 13 or 14, I was just able to shorten that more. So now it was just, that's all it is. It's like just since then I've just been pooping out music, man. Just
Dude, during your
Okay.
time, like what kind of VSTs were you using? Like obviously at some point probably Massive came into play and Hallian and all that other stuff, but like when you first started, like what did they even have?
Dude, honestly, you'd be surprised how well some of these VSTs have aged. I'm
Silent?
still using the same VSTs that I was using back then.
Really?
Like,
Holy
I'm
shit.
using Reactor. I'm using Reactor.
Okay, fair.
I'm using like the Korg Legacy Collection. I did start using Massive much later. But honestly, like a lot of those retro Reactor like collection sort of plugins, they were amazing, man. They were like, they were very flexible. Like there were tons of parameters, envelopes, oscillators, like all these configurations that you could really mess around with. So you had
True.
you had a really big amount of flexibility. And then also there was one instrument which kind of gave me like everything all in one go. That was Hypersonic. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. Steinberg Hypersonic.
Steinberg, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it had like everything. It had like it was just, I think that's all I really needed. I just needed Reactor and like Hypersonic, and then the Korg Legacy Collection. Yeah, like you guys sort of mentioned in chat, like the Korg Legacy Collection is just, you had like out of the box just really good sounding like respays, and like I wasn't so big on like presets. Like I really enjoyed, like that was one of the things as a kid, is I liked taking a preset and just like experimenting. I had no idea what any of the knobs did.
Yeah.
Just kept messing around with as much as I could until I got sounds that were cool. So I think like both Reactor and Korg, some of those original like the Legacy Collection plugins, as well as just the Reactor like library that sort of came with it. That's what I started with, and I still use that stuff now. There's this one Reactor ensemble, Junatic, like JUNATIK. I've literally been using that one VSD longer than like many of my cousins have been alive. If that
Really?
makes
That's
sense. So,
crazy.
yeah, it's the same VSD as like same instrument I was using from back then. So yeah, that's some of the stuff, man.
Are you
Yeah.
have you ever because I have to ask, I know that we had a
Yeah,
brief
sure.
conversation about Bitwig, but have you ever messed with Faceplant?
No, I don't know what faceplant is. What is that? I've never heard of that. Is that like a I look that up?
No, I'm joking. It definitely would be worth checking out.
Oh,
My
phase plant. I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
yo, Zayaku. Zayaku was over at the house. Actually, we were at the gym earlier today. If you get guys,
Oh,
if you
okay,
get the
cool.
chance, please check out Zayaku. So sorry, 1 second.
No,
Zayaku
absolutely.
won the
Go ahead, man.
most recent Saturate beat battle for Saturate Records. Zane is part of Saturate Records,
Oh,
and he
sick.
has a
Okay.
killer tune. And then I spent some time earlier with him today, teaching him how to flip, and so
Oh, that's
it was a great
sick.
time. Yeah, like
I'm so envious of you guys. Holy crap.
bro, it's not even that. It's kind of like you don't have to like be at this level to still enjoy it, because movement is movement in the
Yeah.
same way as like beats are beats, right? That stuff is
Yeah,
timeless.
absolutely.
So kind of just Alchemy about to throw him into the phase plant rabbit hole. Not
Phase
necessarily.
plant.
I'm not here to convert. I'm just here to be like, hey, have you seen this before? But I'm kind of the phase plant / Bitwig person. One of them, anyways. I'm not claiming to be the person, but
Gotcha.
that's what I mostly cover on the channel. But yeah, guys, go check out
Gotcha.
Zayaku. Please go check out Zane. This is a wonderful network of people
Yeah,
that we have
absolutely.
here.
I'll
And
love to follow you
dude,
guys.
I like. It's crazy because I actually haven't heard a lot of your recent stuff, but I absolutely adore all the things that you've made up until like what was that one song I was just listening to earlier? It was something Blade, like
Blade Shine? I think it
Blade
was
Shine.
called Blade
Yes.
Shine, yeah.
Yeah. The da da, and then like the way that the beat comes in, and it's almost like
Yeah.
it's I wouldn't even call it progressive house, but it just fucking grooves, man. And that's really what I want to
Yeah,
get
man.
into today because we talk so much about that, especially in cultivation and groove and stuff. But sorry, here we go. Welcome to the Alchemy channel.
Yeah.
So
I'll just before you get in that, I will answer Zane's question.
Yeah.
Just get it out of the way.
Yeah,
So
it's-
Zane, I just turned 30 like a few months ago.
Oh,
So
what, dude? I'm 32.
I'm only yeah, like you mentioned, like I'm actually only like 2 years younger than you, man. We're about the same. We're pretty much the same cohort, same generation.
Holy shit, bro.
Of
Dude, Zayaku is the same age as me and just got into tricking today. So like you got time, bro. You got plenty of
Yeah,
time.
for sure.
30
30
squad.
squad, yeah.
Dirty 30.
Yeah, man,
dude.
I'm already dealing with back pain and crap. So
Oh man, I
there
had
you
that
go.
at like 5.
Yeah.
Just like please. No, that's crazy
yeah.
though. Man, to think that you've been making music that long, I can only like, because I'm about a decade in, and to think just like how your perspective on that stuff changes and the way that you look and the way that
Yeah.
the constant like evolution of perceiving music evolves, like that's really
Yeah.
freaking crazy to think about. Fuck, man, so many things. That's why I was like, dude, just here we go, because I usually
Yeah,
get
just
onto
go for
some
it.
kind of
Anything, man.
tangent. Okay, first
Any
of all,
tangent, I don't care.
yeah, something that I wanted to mention was that we're both drinking the same thing. We showed
Yeah.
up and like he was drinking that. I was like, is that Dr. Brew? And then I just like whipped mine out and I was like, yo. So that was pretty cool. Aside from that, I kind of want to talk about your relationship with video games and how that
Sure.
affected your kind of affected really just the music that you make, and kind of just retouched on some of the things that we were discussing before we hopped on stream, particularly with groove, particularly with vibe, with experience in creating that bigger picture as we kind of summarized.
I think for me, like video games have always been where I understood music from, if that makes sense.
Mm.
I don't have any formal music training. My musical theory is questionable, you could say.
Probably better
A
than
lot
mine.
of it has entirely been, and then when I was much younger, obviously, like I grew up listening to like early 2000s pop music and stuff. Like who didn't, right? Like
Yeah,
Linkin
yeah.
Park, Backstreet Boys, whatever. Like
Of
the
course.
that whole generation. Yes, I was part of that as well. But outside of that, it was like what I was finding on my own is I was just all I did as a kid. Honestly, I can think of is like I used to burn CDs of like the Unreal Tournament soundtrack and like the Age of Empires soundtrack. Like I don't know if you guys know this, but the original Age of Empire or Age of Empires 2, the game disc for Age of Empires 2, if you put it into a CD player, would just play the soundtrack of the game. And that shit was amazing, dude. And what I would do is I literally took that to school with me in like third
Sick.
grade or something, and I asked my teacher, I'm like, hey, can I play this CD? It has music I like. And she was like, I don't know. I got really lucky too. I had this like our third or fourth grade teacher who was like, she was just really randomly cool and
Mm.
super into ambient music, like out of nowhere. She was like into Boards of Canada,
Oh.
Aphex Twin, all this stuff. I would like mention some of these artists thinking like nobody has any idea what I'm talking about, and then she would like be like, "Oh yeah, I listened to that, Soma FM. I listened to this. I love this kind of music." And I was like, "This is awesome." She let me play a lot of this video game music. Anyways, that's kind of where it started. I was always my relationship was always like these video game soundtracks are music to me, like genuine music. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, no worries. I try to give cues like when I have thoughts, but please like get all your thoughts out and whatnot.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So have you played Castlevania Symphony of the Night?
No, no, I haven't. I
Fuck.
didn't play.
Okay.
I was a PC. I was a DOS gamer. That was it. I
It's
was like
okay.
a major DOS PC gamer growing up. Yeah.
So Zane was like, you could also do that with some PS1 games, and one of the coolest things about like one of the coolest Easter eggs was that if you did that with Symphony of the Night, then the main character
Yeah.
Alucard would be like, track 1 contains data that is like something something something, and you can't actually listen to it. Track 2 is
That's so
something something,
cool.
and he's like, but you're probably not going to listen to me, are you? And then this freaking techno track just drops in, and it's this secret song that is
That's so
actually not
sick.
on the OST, and it was just like, what the
It's
hell?
like part
'Cause-
of the disc.
yeah, it's like, man, like back in the day during PS1 era, like, and lots of games in general, but like when like Metal Gear Solid, like you had to
Yeah.
unplug the controller and put it in
Yeah,
controller too,
like
and it's
breaking
like,
the fourth wall of
yeah,
like video gaming.
it was so
honestly, yeah.
cool with those kinds of things, and it's really cool to be
Yeah.
able to talk with somebody about that too, because those are things that I
Yeah.
bring up on stream all the time, and I'm like, anybody, and they're like, what?
Yeah.
So
I know, yeah.
yeah, man.
So I think it was there was one soundtrack in particular which is the de facto that like shaped my entire interest in music, and that was the Unreal Tournament soundtrack. So like I played that game. That was the first or that was like the second first person shooter I ever played, but it was the first one I ever really got into, and I was like obsessed with that game when I was in I think when I was like growing up, like fourth grade, fifth grade, all the way up into like middle school. Um,
You see that?
yeah, that's yeah. That's, yeah, so
Who's
it looks
that?
like you have those too.
That's his
Yeah.
track.
Yeah, so I was obsessed with like literally anything Unreal Tournament related, including and especially the music. I think that's some of the most like listened to music I think like video game soundtrack I've ever had. But that is what got me into like break beats, all in one go. Liquid drum and bass, jungle,
100%.
break beats, freaking. They had not necessarily happy hardcore. Like I don't know what do you call like just fast tempo for on the floor like electronic music like 160 170 BPM.
I think just
Like
hardcore.
what genre? That's just hardcore. Yeah.
I
So
think
it was
so.
like that, it was that right. And I was listening to that stuff for years, man, and I was just obsessed. I'm like, this is the coolest freaking music I've ever had. But anyways, that to kind of go back to your original question, that's sort of what for me started. Like, music wasn't about making music for like a club. It wasn't about trying to impress people necessarily. It was something I kind of just unintentionally felt like I learned was it was something that was put into video games to help immerse you into the game, but sort of kind of what that evolves into is like it's supposed to immerse you into your reality. Like music
Right.
is supposed to be easy to associate your like your era, like whatever era you're in your life, whatever chapter you're in your life, you're like starting your first day of school, or like you're going on vacation, or your first time going on an airplane, or like you're going for a nice walk. Like music is supposed to work just like how it does in video games, where it's like whatever vibe is there you're trying to capture and sort of attach. It's like the glue, right? It's like gluing you into your reality in a way so that when you think about it later you have like you have very visceral nostalgia. Yeah, and oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Need for Speed soundtrack. Need for Speed is actually how I discovered BT. So that is also that's where I got into glitching, was because I played freaking Need for Speed Underground.
So it's
yeah.
for one, I think that it's super sick. Sorry, so while you're talking, I'm usually like connecting
Yeah.
with chat and stuff, but
Yeah,
I am
yeah,
listening
absolutely,
to you.
man. Absolutely.
But it's super cool because like if you listen to your music, it's really evident of like where all this stuff comes from, and I love that. Like I wouldn't say that your sound design is simple, but I will say that in my opinion, you are a master of using simple sounds. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and also like I really like the way that you have nuance with some of those things. Like Surrounded, you have that bass like boom,
Oh, yeah.
like some of that stuff was like, oh shit, like I had never heard anything like that before, but it wasn't one of those
Gotcha.
things that I was like, how did you make that sound? But it was something that had its own signature. And that's one
Yeah.
of my favorite songs. I love that. I showed that song to my mom a long time ago, and she was
Oh,
like,
really?
wow. Yeah, because like
That's
she got me
crazy.
into electronic music aside from video games.
Oh,
Like I got
no
the
way, no way.
she got me into like the Daft Punk and
Yeah,
hard house. And
yeah.
there's, dude, you might know this, there's this one song, it's old school like 90s, that it goes do 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 do.
Um,
I've been looking for that song for 20 fucking years.
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, totally
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
But
Sorry,
basically
man.
stuff like that, Daft Punk.
Yeah.
And what's that one song? I Feel Love. I Feel Love. You know that one.
Oh, yeah, that's a good song.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
stuff like that. That's what
That's
she
a
was
very
listening
good song.
to. And then, during
Gotcha.
our time, our upbringing, it was Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis,
Yeah.
Donkey
Yeah,
Kong
yeah.
Country,
Absolutely.
and things like that. And those were the tunes that I used to take to school with me. And I didn't have anything.
Yeah.
It was before MP3s and stuff, but I would
Yeah, yeah.
sing, all of the themes or whatever. Sonic the Hedgehog
Yeah.
3, dun 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 dun
Okay,
dun
true.
dun 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 dun, the Ice Cap Zone and all that. And so that's why I
Yeah.
think I resonated with your stuff so much, because you kind of embody that, but
Yeah.
within your own direction. Are you familiar with Zircon?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I
Oh,
think I did a track. I did a remix for him for one of his remix contests a
really?
long time ago. Yeah, Mindbender or whatever. I did like a remix of his track
Oh
called
shit!
Mindbender.
Yeah, I've got that. Well, I don't
Um,
have yours, but I do have Mindbender.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I didn't win his remix competition, but I did get like honorable mention in that. But getting an honorable mention from that remix actually got that track so much more traction, and a lot of people discovered me like back then just
Yeah.
from this remix I posted of his. But yeah, yeah, I'm familiar with him. Yeah,
Yeah,
his
so
music's awesome.
I feel like he was more of I don't want to say that you two have a similar style, but I feel like if it was like a video game era music during that time,
Yeah.
without necessarily acclaiming it to video games, like you two were very.
Yeah.
I was listening to a lot of both of you at the time, because you kind of you were very different, but you had the same vibe.
Gotcha,
Um,
gotcha.
I had a point to that, but I was just kind of like curious about that. But
Yeah.
what was really cool during that time was there was a lot of music that was coming out that you could tell was video game inspired, but like almost
yeah.
directly. And it's almost weird now, because we were talking about this, but like the 90s jungle scene has kind of made a resurgence. But
Yeah,
I'm really
100%.
hoping that people go and listen to your stuff, because yours, to me, like your music is timeless. It's like I'm right back in my PS2 era. I'm right back in the like I was listening to Aural Networks earlier, and that's one of my favorite tunes from you, just because
Oh,
it's
really?
like,
That's so crazy.
yeah, it's like it's just something that's so easy to listen to. But I'm like, now I'm playing Star Fox, all over again, or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
It's sick. You
I
guys
hear
really
you,
gotta check
man.
his music out. It's very different than the neuro stuff that we do, and it's not, but at the same time, it's something that if you play video games, it really puts you back in touch with that, and that's
Yeah.
very valuable to me.
Yeah, man, that's literally what I've always been trying to capture, I think, in the back of my head. Some of it is intentional, some of it is very just subconscious. But yeah, that's kind of how it's always been.
Yeah.
I mean, well, that's how it started, but yeah, I definitely had a phase. Like I kind of mentioned to you in a message where I was like, I didn't really know what the heck I was doing with music
Nobody
for many
does.
many
I
years.
don't. I still
And
don't.
I have a lot of regrets too, because I feel like, and this will be like, I don't know, sort of a transition into another topic if
Sure.
if you're all right with that. But it's
Absolutely.
like, I think one of the reasons I'm like happy to be here talking about this stuff now is when I originally started making music, it was just to capture like a vibe or an essence, certain sounds, certain melodies and atmospheres that I had heard in other places that I wanted to, like, certain sonic textures, whatever that you want to craft. But then I think the problem with going into high school or like going into middle school while making music is that those environments don't really promote like working on a craft for yourself. It's everything is always external, and that's what you're fighting, right? You're like, for many years you're just fighting with, how can I not let external validation be the try and
Driving
become like
factor,
this,
yeah.
unintentionally become a driving factor or motivator. And that's what it ended up being. It was like, in middle school, whatever, I was still making music, but you have to understand, I was always getting feedback from people in person that they didn't like my music and that it was shit or whatever, and that they're like, you're not even making real music, you're making beats. Like online, like I was on internet forums and like the OC remix community and stuff.
Oh, dude.
Online versus in person were just like two different like universes, man. It was like people online are like, yeah, I like this that you made here, I want to hear more of this. Or I started working with record labels and they're like trying to sign my music and stuff, and like you get this validation that, hey, people actually want to listen to like what I'm making.
Mm.
And then in person it's just like, and it's also with middle school kids that are like the worst, right? And
Bro,
it's
they just
like,
weren't ready.
yeah,
They weren't ready for
it's
your
just,
shit.
yeah.
That's what it was.
And it was like so much of hearing that stuff in middle school, in high school, people just being like, oh yeah, Nafu makes music, I guess. Yeah, he makes beats and stuff. Until like, I sort of mentioned this to you before, until it was like that era of like, EDM house music becoming mainstream and popular, when now all of a sudden people who've never been into this type of music have an opinion on what I make,
Mm.
etc. But throughout that whole process, it's like I stopped caring about the craft and like making music that's more deeply connected to like myself emotionally, and kind of just you know the sounds that I want to architect. And it was more about like, how can I make things that other people like. And that was it, man. That was like that was, I think, like the inflection point for many years, where I personally feel like, I may have made music, sure, that like maybe I liked, or that sounded good, and maybe to some extent like people find like objectively, sure, this is okay music, but it was never really music that I connected with or made me feel any better as a producer, or made me care about making music more.
Really.
And that was the mistake. And it wasn't until like, and then I went into high school like that, I went into like university, and it was also heavily like that. That's university is when I started to perform more, so I learned how to play guitar, and learned how to like beatbox, play guitar, and perform music with other people at a lot of open mics and stuff. I got really into like finger drumming and all of that. Kind of my evolution of like doing production, but then switching into like performing a bit more, was because I wanted to do stuff that other people liked. I wanted to entertain more,
Yeah.
and I wanted to, yeah, I that became a driving factor. But now I'm back, dude. Like, yeah, now I'm 30. I have a kid. I don't really care about all that shit anymore.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
love making music. And then I look back, I'm like, man, back in like 2009 or 2010, had I just stuck to like making music that was like video game inspired, that I liked, that was like, that like remix collection that you probably have on my unofficial remix collection.
With the
If I just did more of that stuff, like before I used to be like, oh, I like this track from BT, I'm gonna do like a dub remix, unofficial dub remix. Oh, I like this thing, like I like that Samantha James track, I'm just gonna do an unofficial dub remix. Well, whatever, who cares, right?
It's so like refreshing to hear you saying this, because I got a video coming out on Friday about your relationship, not you, but your relationship with music and mental health, and talking about like, yo, you need to like enjoy this shit. And it's crazy, because all these things that you're saying, I really think are going to align with a lot of people that are not only here, but the people that are going to see this in the future. And these are the kinds of insights that I value in having these conversations with, because they're almost like confirmations, right? About being like, yo, you got to enjoy this thing. If you don't enjoy this thing, you're not going to stick with it, or you're going to end up hating the craft, and that kind of defeats the purpose of it. I will say that I do think that breaks can be healthy. Like, Corey took a huge break. She went to go get licensed for therapy. So she's a licensed
that's
therapist.
awesome.
And in order to
That's
kind of
awesome.
go for something practical, but now that she got her license and stuff, she's back to composing music. And she was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I could have kept going or whatever, but I'm glad that I
That's
gave
true.
myself that refresh, and now she's inspired again, and hopefully, you are too. I don't know like what your schedule is, but somebody in this community is always making tunes.
Yeah.
Share your tunes, share your whips, whatever you want to
Absolutely, yeah.
do. I still, if you're up for it at some point, in a little bit, up for sharing the tune that you sent me, if that's okay to play on
Yeah,
stream.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I sent it so you could share it. Yeah,
Yeah, I hadn't
absolutely.
forgotten about it. It's just a matter of
Yeah,
like,
no
yo, I
worries.
got so much to say. So,
Yeah, no worries, man.
so there's that aspect, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Also, I
man.
want to say I appreciate that, Crumble Noob. I know you said that you'd also been following my music. I just want you guys to know that like when anybody tells me they even know my music, it like like I genuinely really appreciate it. Like I'm like so happy that someone out there has like connected with it, because I've been in ways like distant from that for years. So appreciate that.
So we need to
Crumble
talk.
Dupe.
You and I need to have
Yeah.
a chat because you got me to actually buy my first plugin, which was
No,
not
really, no way.
which was not D Blue Glitch,
Oh yeah, okay, good. I'm glad you didn't buy that shit.
but it was Tornado, and I still own it.
Okay,
I still
whatever,
use it
it's
from time to
fine.
time. So there is this video that is on the internet that I'm going to pull up here in just a second. We're
Sure.
not going to necessarily watch it, but I'm going to share it with the chat. That was
Sure, yeah.
one of the most influential videos of my musical career. And
Uh-huh.
it's this very short tutorial. Hold on. Called Fracture Shows His Glitch Technique on
Oh
Cubase.
man, dude. People used to make fun of me for that video so much. They're like, "You sound like you're 8 years old." It's like I'm watching a tutorial by an 8-year-old.
Who did? Look, it's like
Like people in my like the breakbeat community. who
okay,
I shared that with.
I will say that there's like no screen capture. Like if you look at this, it's literally like an off-camera recording.
Yeah, it's on like.
It's
yeah.
14
You can share.
years
You
old.
can share a bit of it. It's like the first. I think from 52 seconds onwards, you could share a little bit. I think that kind of sums up what.
I'm gonna
what
split
that
it in the
video is even
chat.
about.
But man, so
Gotcha.
the thing that was so sick about this was that like you actually, if I'm not mistaken, you did talk about like glitching plugins and stuff like that. But you also talked about how to cut audio by hand. So you
Yeah.
got to realize that all of that audio cutting stuff that you heard on the track that I played,
Yeah.
like this is
you
the
did it by hand.
this is the genesis of this. I do everything
That's
by hand.
crazy, man.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Isn't that insane? So I also have this other track that I'll send you later that has something that is inspired from the way that you cut your breaks and stuff. But like this was such a staple. Maybe I don't want to say that this is your identity, but this was something that you used to do a lot in your music that I was
Yeah.
just like, how the fuck did you do that? And this was like 15 years ago, about 14, 15 years ago, this was, in my opinion, the best IDM tutorial / glitching tutorial that was
That's
on
crazy.
YouTube because there was nothing else like this. And look what's right below this. Have you seen this video?
Wait, I gotta zoom in a little bit on this. From this to this, that's crazy.
So it's like, and don't get me wrong, like I have my own expression about how I do this and stuff, but
yeah,
but-
of course,
and,
of course.
and I hope that you know, like I've modernized it, internalized it, made it my own. But here's
Oh,
your,
it
like,
is your own, man.
Here
of
is your
course.
paper trail, guys. Like here is literally your paper trail of stuff, and it's crazy because like I haven't actually mentioned you that much. I have a few times, but just as a matter of like 1-to-1, I hope that like you're proud of that because I'm like, look at how, look at what I've done with what you've done. Look at what
Absolutely,
you've
man.
done.
It's like a butterfly effect, honestly. Like I never really imagined. I think it was just back then. I was just like, I felt like I was doing something that everyone could do, but
No.
then in some of the forums I was in, it would be people ranting about, oh, I heard this glitch plugin used. They're just using D-Blue glitch, blah blah blah, whatever. And I was just like, I think you can just do this stuff by hand. I think I had read or someone had mentioned to me that there are some other producers that I was follow. Like one of the producers that he was one of my biggest influences for glitch. His name is Stefan Anion. I don't know if you remember, like Stefan Anion.
Is he on
Stefan
YouTube?
Anion. I don't know if he's on YouTube. His music was also like very glitch, like it was like glitch inspired, like progressive breaks. And I think someone had mentioned that he was doing it by hand. So I just went and did this, but and that's what people will reach out to me. They're like, "Oh, how did you do this glitch segment? How did you do this glitch segment?" So I literally just pulled out some like shitty camera, dude, and I was like, "Well, I'll just record my screen and just show them these little chunk sections, and that's it. Like, look, you just gotta cut these things up in certain intervals and play around with it, and that's all you kind of do, right?"
Is Flaming June a copyrighted song?
What are you talking about? My unofficial remix?
Your unofficial
no,
remix.
No, it's not. It's
Okay.
not a copyrighted song at
Give
all.
me,
No,
give
it's
me,
just an
like
unofficial-
let's take a gander at this for just 1 second.
Yeah.
So good, man.
There is. I can also.
Yeah, yeah. We'll listen to this. Oh, it's so pretty, bro. I think it's in the middle of the track, right?
It's like, yeah, it's gotta be.
So fucking cool, man.
It was all handcrafted, dude.
So sick. All right, so let me play this for you real fast. We're gonna jump into a song that you haven't heard, but I want you to see,
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
if you're cool. Like, I want to show you one of my expressions of that I think that you'll
Absolutely.
appreciate.
Even the song you played in the intro was, I was deconstructing that in my head, and I was like, this sounds so sick. Like, you can tell these are manually, like, handcrafted glitches, and it sounded very intentional. Yeah.
So on that note, I will say, Zane Wolf in here is a huge influence of the music that I'm making today. He is a
Gotcha.
producer from South Africa, and he is one of the people that helps run Saturate Records. But with the halftime scene and all that stuff, him and Cage and Chi have taught me this weird rhythm thing of the wonkiness of all
Yeah.
that. They taught me everything
Like,
about that stuff.
incredible swing and stuff like that.
It's
That's
just
awesome.
It's just slop.
Just very swingy. No, it's very almost like Flying Lotus inspired. Like, you know, that's what it sounded like. I could hear it a lot. It was like
That's what they get
glitchy,
down to.
electronic Flying Lotus.
Yeah, yeah. And so, like, I fucking love these guys. Are my brothers, and I love the fuck out of them. And I can't, like, take credit for this kind of thing because these guys literally, like, showed me the steps and all that, and I put the practice in. But there was that. However, that's not the only kind of music I make. I want to play just this part of this tune for you because I want you to hear if you can hear you within this track. And it's not like I was like, what would Fracture do? But just as a means of, this was 2 years ago, so.
Sure, yeah, absolutely, man.
Sorry, there's going to be some latency, of course, but
That's fine. That's fine. I got
I'm not going to make you listen to the whole thing, but. It's coming up, but.
Sounds really great already, man. Really.
Thank you, man. I do have like one particular mix complaint about all my music, but I'll save that for way later. But this part coming up right here.
Holy shit.
Does that remind you of anybody?
Dude, that's like straight goosebumps, man. That sounds so good.
Thank you, man. So, you know, yeah, dude, I got that from you.
That's insane. That's your own thing, man. Don't say that you got that from. That sounded so sick.
No, I think it's cool. Like, to be honest, like, you know what's really sick that I've been super fortunate about is that almost every inspiration I've had other than like video game composers and stuff, I've had on the channel. I've had Zane on the channel. I've had Cage on the channel. I haven't had Chi on the channel. I hope to get him on at some point. But I've had all of my people that I've paid for lessons and stuff here. And so, like, you're one of the last people that is like, dude, like, you have a huge part of this. And so all the IDM stuff that I do, the break stuff that I do, which isn't that much anymore, but still, it's like I learned that shit from you.
That's crazy, man. that was so refined too. Holy, like all of the ways you sliced the hi-hats and stuff there too. Like, man, so good.
The thing that was so profound that helped me understand that was that you had this thing within that video that said there's always something that helps continue progressing the track. So you might cut up the drums, but you might have the music going. You might cut up the music, but have a hi-hat going. But you always have some element that keeps that aspect of the rhythm to help you know where you are in the track. And when I kind of internalized that, I was like, I get it. I get it. And the thing is that to me is one of like the staples of any kind of glitch genre that exists in the electronic scene, whether it be IDM or hyper glitch or, you know, just things that are like way off the wall, like of all the spectrums of glitch music. And that's I believe that rings true, and it's super cool. I'm not saying that you made it up, but fuck, you're the one that I heard
that
it
was
from.
just
yeah,
that was just a discovery. It was like an insight of mine, which is obviously not like a novel, like, you know, no one's ever thought about this before. It was like when I was trying to debunk glitch music myself and looking for how to craft a certain sound, it was like, how do you make it messy but like structured at the same time? That's what it is, because that's when glitching sounds really good. It's like it gets all freaking cerebral, man. You're like listening to it and you're like, you think you're being thrown off, but you're not. It's like, how do you do that? How do you throw the listener off and like put them on this wild trip, but then you catch them back into it immediately? And like that's what it was. That was the insight. I was just sharing that. That's crazy, dude, because see, I forgot I even said anything like that. So for you to even bring that up, I'm like, I guess I shared something.
I probably hadn't watched that video in over a decade, but I'm the kind of person that when people speak and people teach me things, and hopefully my teachers can attest to this, like I listen very intently, and I'm just like, and I'm not like obsessive over it, but I'm like, what does this mean? what is going on here? What the hell is happening? And I think that was one of the things that, you know, really helped out. And that was something that I tried to intentionally put in a lot of tracks that I had. And so now it's really cool that like I don't have to force it anymore. There's like every once in a while I'll bring it out and be like, I still know how to do that, and exemplify stuff like that. But as you say, there's also a subtlety to it, because I tend to have some of that stuff in the music that I make today with the halftime, just not so the whole thing, you know, or it's more of just like really small hits and bits.
Very tasteful.
I wasn't going to say that, thank you, but I'm very tasteful and eloquent with the intention. Sure. Nah, but man, like that stuff is so cool, and like that's one of the funnest things about adding the aspect of electronic music, in my opinion, is setting up a vibe, as you say, and then deconstructing the vibe into a means that is this like raw expression, and then bringing the music back, because it almost creates this insane aspect of contrast to the track. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And it does, I would say glitching inside a track is one of the most intense journeys, you know. It's like frantic, it's kind of an overstimulation.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, it's kind of hard to find. I mean, like, obviously you can get that in many different genres of music. Don't get me, I'm not some kind of glitch elitist. I love a lot of different types of diverse genres of music. I can appreciate that. I just find like, you know, if you're trying to send your listener on a trip, glitching is one of the coolest ways to do it. I think so. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I can't think of another track that has this. Like, not a single one that was. I don't know what kind of track you would consider sidewalking slow, because it's kind of dubstep-ish, but kind of just hip hoppy. But it's
you're almost
vibey.
Like it feels like a Nardwuar interview, man. I swear to God, like I forgot about that track.
Oh really?
It's like, oh, you know that? You even know what that song is?
Yeah, of course I've got that song. But what's so cool about that song is that it's like it's kind of IDM, it's kind of dubstep, it's kind of like a bunch of different things put together, but you have that section of it to where it's like
it's like half tempo and everything.
I haven't heard a track like that of your era, not another one at all like that song.
I think that song was actually a mix of a bunch of different stuff that I was listening to. I was listening to this artist called The Flashbulb,
Mm.
and this other artist called Kilowatts, and they were like really intense, really detailed, both instrumental plus like very, very synth heavy, like glitch IDM electronic music, and just like ambient music, chill out music. But then at the same time, I got into this band, which is now a much bigger band than it was back then. Back then, they were just kind of getting off. I got
Yeah,
really
still.
into the glitch mob. So it was like I was trying to mix
Is it?
stuff from Edit, who was like one of the guys who's part of the band Glitch Mob. So I was trying to mix Edit style with like the Flashbulb. That was it. I was literally listening to those two artists side by side. Like,
It,
is Flashbulb Ben Jordan? I can't remember. Flashbulb. Yeah, yeah. That Flashbulb is Ben Jordan. Is he? What does he do now? He looks
he
pretty
does YouTube
familiar.
now.
Oh, he does. Yeah. So yeah, that was it, man, dude.
This is great.
So the Flashbulb also had
Fuck yeah.
so that song Sidewalking Slow was like me listening to the Flashbulb and Edit just together over and over again, and I'm like, I want to make a song that reminds me of both of these artists. It
Can
was like
I
a mix of those two artists. Yeah.
tell you something hella crazy?
Yeah, sure.
So I live in Las Vegas. Like 3 months ago, I went and had dinner with him.
You did? That's insane. That's so crazy,
So
man. Holy
shout out to
crap.
Venus Theory, but Venus Theory travels with Ben Jordan a lot. Venus Theory is a very
Yeah.
popular YouTuber, Cam, and
Gotcha.
they were kind of driving through on a really big project of theirs, and Cam hit me up and he was like, "Yo, I'm in town." I was like, "Where you at?" And so I just met up with them, and they were having Chicago style pizza, and we just like chat the shit. So it's like everybody knows each
That's
other, man.
insane. That is
And
crazy, man. Honestly, the influences too that spread across. Cause like Flashbulb did some insane glitch stuff too. I don't know if you've like heard some of his old music. It was like that. It was like I think what inspired me so much was he took more organic acoustic instruments and then glitched them in such a sick way,
mm,
and that was like something I wasn't hearing much from other artists. Like you listen to like progressive breaks, and yeah, it's like you're just glitching other like stuff that is very digital and like very like VST or like synth heavy, but you're
right,
not taking like strings or piano and glitching them as much. I don't know. Anyways, that was one of my yeah, definitely.
that's crazy,
That's to
man.
answer your question of where Sidewalking Slow kind of came from. It was those guys. It was, I guess it was Ben Jordan and Edit
Wow.
Edma. It's freaking nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Crying over pros for no reason was a
Yes.
really big
Dude.
thing for me too. And I hope that
Yeah.
Ed goes back into, because I've
Yeah.
never met him or talked to him, but he's kind of around our circle, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Because I'm in Vegas, and Vegas is like 4 hours
Oh
from
yeah.
LA,
Okay.
and so you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like it's all around. But I hope that
Yeah.
when he's done touring, he does go back to do some of those sick projects of
Yeah.
crying. Ed, dude, crying over pros for no reason, part two or something. You know.
Dude, that honestly, that track is like ingrained into my brain, dude. Crying Over Post for No Reason, I've probably listened to it like over 100 times, like over the years. It is a classic, like glitch. Like for me, it was one of those tracks is like I can finally look at glitch music from another perspective. That's what it felt like. It was like I always looked at it from like BT or whatever, like break beats, right? Electronic break beats. But now it's like, whoa, you can glitch like trip hop, hip hop beats as well,
Anything,
and
right.
like anything. You can glitch it all, right? It's like, yeah,
Get to the chopper, man.
that's what it
Just
was.
fucking chop it
Exactly.
up.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's so cool about that though is that like at that time when that album came out, there was nothing on YouTube about that. Nothing. So that's why I
Mhm.
say like you got to realize that for one, there was probably a very select few people that were trying to figure that stuff out, but like you gave this paper trail about how that works, because even for him, it's evident in his music that he probably made a beat and had some kind of motif, and then he just
Mhm.
spent the entire song breaking the motif.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah,
see a
absolutely.
lot of expressions of that today in a lot of other people's music. You know, when you make a drop, you make it about the music or something, and you
Yeah.
give some kind of aspect or indication of that. And it doesn't necessarily always have to be choppy, but
Yeah.
it was such a unique but actually revealing expression of the way that music was crafted. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to oversimplify his music or your
No,
music, but
no,
just
no,
as a
no, not
means
at all.
of
No, it doesn't like that.
just as a means of like the general concept and the general approach. And I think that's what's really important for me is like expressing approach and whatnot,
Yeah.
when it comes to teaching, or when it comes to like how do we make this genre, right?
Yeah.
But dude, like yeah, man, like you put that out there, you know, you put that out
I'm
there. It
glad.
was so cool. You figured it out, I guess.
That's just what happens when you have no social media, you're a kid, and you have unlimited access to a DAW. Um, like now that I have a son, I'm like, I need to create. He doesn't have to get into music. He doesn't have to get into any of the stuff I'm into.
Right.
But what is a requirement that is he picks something creative and he dives deep into it and falls in love with it. And I need to figure out how to make that happen. And like, that's all I want. Like all that glitch stuff, making those YouTube videos. It was because I had an opportunity as a kid to fall in love with something with like no expectations,
Hmm.
and just be into the craft, and something that was just so, uh, like there was just no rules. That's the thing. Like there was nobody had any rules for it. If you liked listening to it, then you listened to it. That was it. That was the
Yeah.
only rule. All right. So.
And it wasn't so, as you
Mhm.
say, it wasn't so conformed. And like the thing is that I don't think that
Yeah.
people were so obsessed with trying to necessarily figure it out. I think that
Mhm.
it's important in some cases to be like, well, fuck, I'm trying to make this. What do I do? But at the same
Yeah.
time, it kind of just was a vibe, you know?
Yeah.
And it still is a
Yeah.
vibe.
Yeah.
Like I said, man, like a lot of your music is just like you could put it on any time. I can't tell you how many times I went to sleep to so many tracks because it was just like and I was just like, oh shit, hell yeah. You know, just just out.
That's crazy.
And I still do, and it's really cool. And I, like I said, man, I can't say this enough. Like you guys should really go check out the rest of his discography because um, I'd be very surprised if, especially in today's day and age, especially with where music is, that you don't feel something from it. And I think that's this like such an important thing of like feeling something from it. So sorry, tangent.
No, it's okay.
I would like to talk about kind of the, kind of like the here and now of like,
Yeah, yeah, sure.
what do you got going on, if anything?
So, honestly, like, and I don't want to make this sound like some kind of press release type thing, but I just finished, actually, it's been a few months now. I finished like this full video game soundtrack for a game
Let's
that a friend
go.
of mine is working on. And this has been a passion project for me. I've always wanted to do soundtrack. I've always wanted to do game soundtrack. Um, it was one of the most fulfilling takes on music production I think I've had
Really?
in like a decade. Yeah, because it was just expression. It was all vibes. And I don't want to use that word, overuse that word, but
It is
it
what it is.
genuinely was like. So the game is called Lauren's Lure. I don't know if you want to type that out or I mean, I think the easiest way to like just share it is like share my friend's Twitter because he posts about it pretty actively,
I
or
guess
X.com or whatever
also
you
we
would
kind of
say.
have a sneak preview of this, right? That we're gonna listen to here in
Yeah.
a second. If you're down, if you guys are down.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
So
yeah, tell us
Lauren,
about it.
yeah, so Lauren's Lure is basically it is to give you sort of a background. It's an atmospheric PS1 era inspired like kind of climbing slash exploration game. You're like an android lost in this sort of megastructure, and it's very the graphics is very like PS1 era graphics.
Yeah.
It almost reminds me a lot of like some of the original Unreal games. And it's all about like parkour. It's basically like lo-fi. Think of it like lo-fi PS1 parkour, and you're exploring a megastructure. And so the whole genre is very much There it is. That's Lawrence Lure. Yeah, please wishlist it, guys. Like check this game out. My friend has been working on it for quite a few years now. His name is Rebecca. He's super talented. He's got like I have watched him pour his like heart and soul into this project, and he's really trying to make an experience and craft sort of this kind of atmosphere that's like just really refined. But this game has been my music project for a while. Like he reached out to me. We kind of did a bunch of tracks back and forth. What made it easy was like he spoke a little bit of the same language as me because he's into a lot of like more underground electronic music and stuff like that, and he's really into like this game is very drone heavy, so it was my first time basically being like a drone soundtrack producer, and I
Sick.
loved it, man. I was like, sculpting drones is just one of the coolest like things ever. Like taking, piano sounds and stretching them out to like 5 minutes, and then like editing them and doing other cool shit. And I was just like layers upon layers of like this cool sound design tricks, and I was like, yeah, this is where I should have been. Like if I had opportunities to make music for more games back in the day, man, I would have. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
whatever. Like
No, no, you belong
aside
with
from the
us,
past,
is what it sounds like.
yeah, yeah. So this is what I'm working on now. I mean, this is what I finished actually. I've done a lot of music. There's definitely some gems in there. There's some music in there that I'm very proud of because I've stretched myself in terms of, um, this is the like, uh, this game is where my first time like I really wanted to understand like how can I make orchestra sound like I actually know anything about orchestra, if that makes sense. Like how can I convince people who listen to this like, oh wow, this guy sounds like he actually knows a thing or two about music theory or whatever, if that makes sense. So yeah, like that's my project. So Lawrence Lore soundtrack, I sent you a piece that my friend Rebecca said that he'd be okay with me sharing on your stream.
Yeah.
Did my colleague do shorts on YouTube explaining certain aspects of game program? I think he did do some devlogs. He must have done some devlogs. His YouTube channel is also called Rebecca. Um, yeah, Rebecca Games. He must have. You can actually, I don't know. Can I even link stuff in your chat?
If you
Or-
can, send it to me, and then I'll post it.
Oh,
in
okay.
the-
Yeah, I'll just do that. Yeah. So definitely check out his work. That's his work. That's his game.
Would you all be
So
interested
this,
in? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
no, go
you
ahead,
know,
man.
maybe
Go
if
for
he's
it.
down, he could come on the channel too and talk about your guys' development process, or you guys can both come back and talk about like
Yeah.
what that was like, because a lot of people would most likely love to know about like more about this process, about how to develop music to a game in the means of like how that thing goes. And or at the same time, to be honest,
Yeah.
first of all, Fracture has his own YouTube channel with tutorials if you didn't figure that out, but maybe that's something that like if you ever get back into content creation,
Yeah.
one or both, like, because these are things that we want to know about. These are things that is going to be super helpful and insightful to the community, because I can't tell you how many times people are like, yo, Alchemy, do you do video game music? And I'm like, no, I don't know
Yeah.
anything about it. I used to do Unreal game jams on Discord, but
Yeah.
that's about it. So you have a lot of valuable insight that I think a lot of people would resonate with.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I would. I don't see why he wouldn't be down, other than the fact that he's working desperately to get the game out.
It could be later,
Sort of as soon as he
anytime.
can.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but like, I mean, I don't see why he wouldn't, because that's awesome. I would love to share. It was very insightful for me actually going through this whole process and working with him in terms of how do you actually align. Like I've done a lot of client work in the past, not for music. Like I work professionally as like a software developer, and I've had like over the last 10 years, I've done a lot of I've done a lot of freelancing, right, outside of my job. So I've experienced working with a lot of clients that I didn't like. That was very hard to work with.
Yeah.
I will say that like one of the things though is like working with my friend Rebecca. He was like a really good client. Like that's all one of the things you have to consider for these types of back and forth collaborations where you're trying to capture somebody else's vision is like it's a different world if you work with a really good client, like someone who partners
exactly
with
what
you lines up with you, is really good at giving feedback about stuff they don't like without being like a dick about it, which I think he's great. Like he's rejected a ton of stuff that I've sent him, but it's never been negative. It's always been constructive, and it's always been like, well, like like how can I don't know if I'm feeling this thing, but like how can we capture this part of like this level more? Like what do you keep trying, etc., iterating, refining. So yeah, there's a lot of insight there, I would say, behind that process of putting together a video game soundtrack that I'd love to share. But I mean, I'm also new to it, so
I think
we'll
that's,
see how that is.
to be honest with you, I think that's why it would be perfect to hear you and your insight,
Yeah.
because you're not somebody that's been through the business. You're somebody that is learning about it as we all are. You know what I mean? You're learning, you're kind of going through a lot of the motions, and having that means, because like, I feel like a lot of times, I know what I want to say, but I'm trying to think of the words to describe it in the way that I want to communicate it.
Yep.
As a means of like, most of the time with like interviews like this and stuff and whatever, like
Yeah.
it's always either somebody's at the very beginning or they've already made it, you know?
Yeah.
And so being able to have somebody that's in the midst of the process is one of the most important things for me, because for one,
Yeah.
like I said, we're all figuring it out together, but two, it's a means of like an update of like, oh, here, this is what I'm doing. This is what, you know, this
Yeah.
is how I make connections with people. This is, you know, and then it creates this network of people that are able to be on the same page as you a lot, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
I think so. Yeah.
and I do think that's a good thing. I know that, you know, especially in terms of like, at least of what I've heard of like gaming and stuff, that it's relatively competitive, you know, to get jobs and booked and all that stuff. And I don't know if that's
Yeah.
where your direction is, but either way, I still think that nobody can take away your artistry and like your value.
Yeah.
So that's why I tend to be like, it's okay, but you know, I don't even know how to feel about
Yeah.
that.
I think in this particular case, he gave me a ton of creative freedom, and I was already. It was also it's a chance thing. I was already really into this universe he was trying to craft. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like, it's techy. There's mega structures. It's ominous. It's futuristic. It's dystopian. It's brutalist architecture. It's this and that. I'm like,
It's Fracture.
dude, I love this stuff. It's like
Yeah, it's Fracture.
it's inspired by it's like inspired by Blame. He's like really into Blame. I think it's like a manga, like heavily inspired by that universe. So for me it was like, I'm already in this universe that I think is so cool, and then he's like given me a lot of creative freedom. I think that is my intuition is that that's not that easy to find immediately, even if you are just trying to find soundtrack projects to work on.
Yeah.
So there's some element of luck there, but if I was to, like, I do want to work more. Like, I actually do plan, like, after this game releases, to brand myself more as someone who is actually open to video game soundtrack. But I'm not trying to make like a career out of that. It's like passion projects. You know what I mean? Like, I want to help somebody else, in
I kind of
close
feel like
that loop of making soundtrack, and
Sorry.
make a passion project out of it. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No,
Interrupt
I'm
you.
so sorry. I was just like, yeah, I'm very enthusiastic about chiming in and stuff, but I feel like that's usually when a lot of people's best work comes out anyways, right? And it's not something that's like you said, having to deal with clients and all that stuff. I've never had to deal with that from a musical standpoint, but I have had to
Yeah.
deal with that in the professional world of circus and,
Yeah, gotcha.
freaking blocking and, that kind of show stuff of somebody that just expects you to go full out every time. And it's like, yo, you've worked us to death. I'm not going to do
Yeah.
that. It's kind of
Yeah,
the same deal. And then you get these other artistic directors that are like, hey, I know what you're really good at, so let me put you over here, give this a shot. What do you think about
Yeah.
this? And I felt valued as an artist and somebody that was a unique individual. And it was a very
Yeah.
positive experience in contrast from working with that. And working with other
Absolutely.
people, I do think that it's important to, for one, like have thick skin and to, be
Yeah.
professional and whatnot. But I'm going to kind of just like resonate with that as a means of when you do get that, when it is good
Yeah.
experience, you want to put more into it. You want to put yourself into it, and it's inspiring.
Yeah.
100%.
No, very inspiring.
Let's play your tune. So sorry.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
I'll
go
talk
ahead.
to you
Yeah,
forever.
play the tune, guys. Freaking
Yeah, we're
check it
gonna-
out. This is a parkour game, by the way, so it's totally up your alley.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
terms of the stuff you like. Yeah.
Let me kind of, so that way we're not just staring into the abyss, but let me go into mix here. There we go. And then let's play this.
Yeah, sure. So this track that I sent you, it's called Simulation, and it's for they're like these simulated extra difficult parkour challenges that you unlock as you play the game.
It's like menu
and
music?
This is the music. Sorry.
Is it
Sorry,
like
This
menu-
isn't menu music. No.
No?
This is like actual like beating the level music.
Oh, cool.
It's like an extra hard challenge, and like this is what you'll be listening to.
Sick.
Yeah, anyways, I'll let you listen to it.
That's that fracture pad.
Yeah, you got it.
That's that fracture pad. I love it.
So the focus there was definitely like make it good thinking music, you know? It's like thinking parkour music, make it, change up the pace here and there. And for me, my personal goal actually is like infuse a lot more orchestra and carry that original style of mine with like the atmospherics, the melodies, the kind of just subtle, faint, like warm fifth and like seventh chords in the background. But just yeah, like let it vibe, and that's kind of how this track sort of came to be.
So like the thing that is so cool about all of your music, and it's super evident within this, is that we talk about like your music is easy to listen to, but it feels, and I don't necessarily feel like that's like what energy you put into this or that it's lazy or anything, but it feels effortless. It feels like something that is just it's warm. It's very embraceful in a lot of ways, and I think that it's because of your sound selection and your seventh chords and all that other stuff. But it just puts you right in, and then you're just like, just fucking vibe out. I love that about your music, brother.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that a lot.
It's something, yeah. I want more of it. So you just know that you have a fan, and there's a reason why you're here on the channel.
Sure.
And I'm not just some random guy that found you 2 weeks ago and was like, hey, you want to get on the channel? It's like,
no, of course.
It's
I mean, if anything, this has been a giant motivator for me to just take like making music more seriously. Not in the sense of like, oh, and I'm gonna go sit at my desk and work really hard at it. Just be like, the time I do put into making music now, it should be something I come back to more. I should see it more as just this fulfilling and fun thing, and then I should just make a point to share it. Like that's it. Just share the stuff I make, and I think this is motivating me a lot to. Yeah. This is motivating me a lot, definitely to put more stuff out there. 100%.
I think that you absolutely should, but I think that music is very personal, and it's means something to everybody, and I think that you're just doing really sick stuff, and I will always like come back to this, no matter how heavy I go or how dark my own stuff goes. Like this is just like a freaking safe zone. Have you played Tunic by chance?
No, it's on my list though. I've wish listed it. It's like the top-down Legend of Zelda style, old school Legend of Zelda style game, right? Yeah.
Brother,
pretty interesting graphics. Is it really good? You recommend it? Like,
I do recommend it, but the biggest recommendation that I have for it is actually because of the soundtrack.
Really? Okay.
Because those people, it's very ambient, and they have a very particular sound set of like they use a lot of the same stuff, but like I already know, man. I already know you're gonna be like,
yeah.
Did I make this music? And it's not necessarily like that, because those people, I forget their names, but it's like Jen, I think, and somebody else, but they're super cool. They have really good music in other places. I've listened to most of their discography, but like it is so.
Okay, yeah, dude.
They're like your cousin. It would seem they're like cousins to your music.
That's awesome. Lifeformed, that's the artist. Lifeformed and Janice Kwan.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. I'll totally check them out. That sounds great.
Yeah, man.
Oh man, I'll just play the game. Honestly, get the full experience.
It's worth it. There's a couple of boss fights in there in particular, and a couple of tracks. It's just like whoa, like you could just like leave it on repeat, never get bored of it. That's how I feel about a lot of your music. Yeah, some of my favorites. The remix stuff. Absolutely, the remix stuff. Deep Surprise. Still Alive. It's fucking timeless. Surrounded remix. Flaming June. Zane says, what is your favorite gaming soundtrack at the moment? What's yours, Zane?
Something.
Sorry, but
yeah. Why don't you start? Yeah, why don't you start us off?
You go
Zane?
first.
Why don't you go first with that question. I think I'm trying to think. Like recently, I've been playing this VR game called Into the Radius, and it's just got really good drone atmosphere. So it's not necessarily soundtrack, but I will say that some of the drone music in that game is like pretty great and very immersive. I've also been playing Cocoon. I don't know if you've heard of that game. It's like a very like you go. There's like mini universes. You fly. It's like a puzzle game made by the same creative director for Inside and Limbo.
Oh, got it. Okay.
And it's like it's got really it's just got very good sound design and things like that. Um, and Machinarium's pretty tight. Oh, actually, I
Who's
have
that?
been listening to the
Is that on
video game
Steam?
soundtrack for Neon White. Neon
Oh,
White.
you were
Yeah,
telling
I
me about
actually
that. Yeah.
I've been listening to the Neon White soundtrack recently. It's funny because I haven't even played Neon White, by the
I
way.
haven't
I've just
either.
been listening to the soundtrack because it's sick. Like Machine Girl. Yeah, Machine Girl's sick.
Doom. Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Okay.
Machinarium and Doom. Okay. That
Would you
sounds
guys
good.
be down, and would you be down to listen to some of your what's it called? To your Unreal Tournament remix?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, are you guys
I
down
mean,
for that? I mean, since you're here, let's just listen to this together, because it would be nice if you were just like kicking it in my car and stuff, and I'm like, yo, let's bump this, but this is
Yeah.
like the next best thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this tune is super sick. I wanted to listen to this one, if that's okay. I do like that one a lot,
You-
but
yeah, you
this
can
one,
listen.
yeah.
Go for it.
Wait, I'll cover myself up. This one is such a vibe, dude. It's like, yeah, it's so cool.
I tried like really hard with this remix, by the way. From a production perspective,
It doesn't sound like it. This is so cool. Textures, man, they're so good. And the harmonization is just awesome.
glad.
When did you make this?
When did I make this?
Like, when was it like donezo? Not necessarily uploaded.
It would have to be 2009 or 2010. I think when it was uploaded to YouTube, I made it a few months earlier than that.
Wow.
Let me see. Let me see. Yeah, I made it in 15 years ago, 2008. So I made this actually in like early 2008.
Bro, this song was made
Yeah.
15 years ago. I know you just said that, but I'm just like
Yeah.
letting that sink in, and I'm just like, man, what? Bro.
Yeah, I think I had like I just like entered 8th grade or some shit. I was like
This was in 8th
vibing on
grade?
this. Yeah. This was some. I'm telling you, this I tried very hard at this. This was like At the time, for
Dog.
me, I think this remix was like my like opus magnum, dude, for a middle schooler. Like putting all my brain cells at
What the fuck?
100%
Man, I think that you have
to
a gift,
produce
brother.
this.
I love your sound, and I think that and hope that you are just doing this, man. And we're doing your own thing, really, because like it's more so about you, the individual, but just as a means of like being way ahead of your time. I feel, and still,
Appreciate that, man.
none of like I wouldn't even say like it's not just you being ahead of your time, but it's also a means of being timeless. Not no pun intended.
For sure.
But but the aspect of this, the essence of capturing video game music, and you know what, something else that makes me appreciate this so much more is that most video game music is not like this anymore. Most of it's very cinematic and all that other stuff,
Yeah.
and like it's okay, but I miss this shit. I miss that aspect
Yeah.
of the jungle, like Street Fighter Third Strike,
Hmm.
I don't know if you've ever played that or not, but it's one of my favorites. Sick jungle music. But like the world needs this. The world needs
Like
this.
absolutely. Like video games just having straight up music in them. That's what I've always thought of. It's like yeah, like even if you just look at the Need for Speed soundtrack where it was just a collection of random really
Yeah.
well selected tracks, but it elevated the experience of playing that game like in an insane amount. And it's not like those tracks in Need for Speed Underground were like crafted to be cinematic video game soundtrack experience. It's like, no, here's just some music. We're just gonna throw it on because it matches this the setting really
Right.
well, and like that's it. Just throw music onto a setting instead of it having to adhere to so many rules around what a soundtrack is supposed to sound like. Yeah.
So like just imagine doing parkour to that. Imagine doing tricking to that,
Yeah.
Imagine doing even fucking jogging in the woods or something,
Yeah.
And it's just like, dude, let's go. You know what I mean? Like that was the coolest thing of like it's almost empowering in a very different way. Because it's empowering because of the ability to immerse somebody. So again, I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass. I'm not really that kind of
No,
person.
no.
But when I appreciate things,
worries,
I
man.
definitely let that be known because those are like this is stuff that I try to take and think about in my music and things that make me appreciate music. You know what I'm saying? So in light of that, if it's cool, do you all have any questions, or do you have any questions for me, or is there any final thoughts that you want to convey across? Come back soon, maybe.
I mean, yeah. I guess which direction do you want to go in first? Do you want to wait to see if anybody else has questions? Do you want me to ask questions? Yeah, man. I mean, I could ask questions.
If you have
I got
any.
questions.
Okay, yeah, you don't have to, but it's more of just like a hey, here's because I've been grilling you this entire hour. But if you have anything for me, I'd be happy to answer that on stream.
I think I guess my question for you is like why the Nero stuff? Like I know why I personally got into kind of the glitchy whatever electronic stuff, but what would you say really is the source of you getting into the music that you're into now? And do you think that it's like a bigger culture thing? Like there is always like this culture that you've kind of unconsciously wanted to be part of, that you unknowingly are in, and music is a part of it? Or do you think it's just straight arbitrary, like whatever chance? Like I don't know, man. What really brings you to this genre and actually makes you give a shit about this stuff, like about this particular type of music?
Bro, that is such a deep question. Thank you for asking that. Holy fuck. I was not expecting that. All right, so let's talk about the actual sound of Neuro first. That was something
Yeah,
that
sure thing, man.
when I first heard that sound, I was like, oh my God, what am I hearing? And that was the primary driver to get into sound design. The short answer of that is practicing this over time was more of a growth of understanding how difficult it was at the time that I was doing it, because it's not difficult now these days, but difficult in the time of this doing it. To be honest, man, it's like if you can make a neuro bass, you can make anything as a means of sound.
Yeah.
Because of how much like
How much you have to put into like kind of crafting it, right?
initially,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And what all the people were doing back then. But over time, I was talking to you about like the Flying Lotus vibes and all that stuff, but like I intrinsically,
Yeah.
I feel like every genre, even breaks, even trance and stuff, comes and stems from hip hop. And
Yeah.
my kind of hip hop that I enjoyed, or my kind of thing that I resonate with the most, was those kinds of beats,
Yeah.
That's how my brain thinks now. And so it only kept getting better from there because I got into a community. I started a community, and getting in touch recently with the people from South Africa, Zane and them and stuff like that. It's just like they're some of the
Yeah.
coolest people that I know, and they get me on a lot of levels, and they usually understand, like you were talking about, the same language, right? There's this language aspect
Yeah.
of it
Yeah.
that's like, oh, they know what I'm talking about. And they were able to answer a lot of the questions that a lot of other people were not able to, you know what I mean, to troubleshoot with me. So in light of that, the reason why I like Neuro has like, it only continues to stack of like my reasons to enjoy it, but the initial
Yeah.
aspect of it was wanting to pretty much just like make the kind of stuff that inspired me, because when I first started, I wanted to make really heavy break beats.
Yeah. Okay.
But like the smackier, and then I got into like Far Too
Yeah.
Loud and Rogue Element and all that other stuff, and like, they were like,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
you want hard drums, here you go. And then there was this aspect of one of the most pinnacle changes to me was listening to Monster from Noisia, and that was
Oh
just
yeah.
like
Okay.
evil. It was pure evil, and I loved that. And I wouldn't say that I'm a pure evil person, hopefully, but the pain, the angst, and the for lack of better description, the trauma, right,
Yeah.
that we all go through and stuff, was a perfect representation about what that was. Whenever I make neurobases and stuff, I was talking about this with Aiden and Cage a few days ago, but to me it's an expression of pain, and I'm not so in tune of like,
Gotcha.
yo, I'm trying to like express my suffering, but at the same time it's become such a staple and such a means of, as we talk about, empowerment as well, that when I express
Yeah.
a phrase like that, that's a means of showing aggression that I don't show in my personality, and also like the things that we hold ourselves
I
back
see.
from in life, but I can do that through music. I can,
That's a really interesting way of looking
I
at
can
it.
talk about
Sorry,
how,
I cut you off.
no, you're cool, but I can talk about how mad I am, you know what I mean? I can talk about how
Yeah.
pissed I am, but I don't have to say it. I can be like, here's a bass that is like, this is how I feel, and I'm just like, yes,
Like bass therapy, dude.
exactly. But as I kept getting better, as I was also getting better
Yeah.
at tricking and stuff, like the beats and stuff that I make, it's tricking music, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
and then all the combos and things that go in my head, and so they kind of have this duality with each other, and
Yeah. I see.
am able to modernize hip hop. I'm able to use cutting edge sounds. I'm able to push the envelope with things that are happening in sound design, and also just have a
100%.
community of like, yo, I learned this stupid trick. Let me make a video about it. Let me tell these people about it. Let's have a discussion about it. And it kind of like is an ecosystem that continues to
Yeah.
push itself in there. It was a deep question. I'm sorry, but
No, dude, that's
Yeah.
that's what I was looking for. I
Yeah,
was looking for an
it's-
answer. Yeah.
and that's about probably not even half of it. But yeah, it's very intentional in the aspects about why I love those kinds of sounds too. Because to be honest
Yeah.
with you, what's interesting is that this kind of music I don't feel is as accessible to people, because it's way less. The musicality aspect of it is way less identifiable to people, because you can't just
Yeah.
put it on and be like, beautiful harmonies and this and that, or vocals that people can pay attention to. It's more of like raw texture and like really crazy
Yeah.
sounds. That's like, you really got to think about it at first until you get the vibe. But you really have to be like, what the fuck is going on, and then be like, yeah, anyway. But yeah, it's just something that like keeps giving me reasons to keep growing with it, and
Yeah.
it's only made me better at every other genre that I produce.
I see that. I feel like that is a very key point in all of this. It's just like it's kind of I don't know if catalyst is the right word.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's sort of like the starting point where you're like, it's like you start by lifting a much higher weight, and then you to do all the other things you want to do, it's always like a lower weight from there on or something. It's almost, I don't know, it's like there's some aspect of it there where it just opens a lot of these doors for you in terms of sound design. And then the beautiful part about sound design is that there's certain sounds that are very simple to make that are beautiful, right? So if you start off at like a very, very technically detailed way of like doing things, it just you suddenly just unlock everything. That's what it kind of feels like, right?
A
So
hundred
yeah.
percent.
Yeah.
And in your world as well, I feel I wouldn't be surprised, and I'm not going to like assume, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was something that drew you to trance, because back then
Yeah.
there was two things that people said: if you can make trance, you can make anything. If you can make drum and bass, you can make anything. I didn't figure drum and
Yeah.
bass out until recently, actually, but neuro stuff would be the sound design equivalent
Yeah.
of that. And so, you know what I'm saying? It's like, well, why wouldn't I do that? You
Yeah,
know?
exactly. No, it's true.
Yeah.
No, that is what it was. It was like, well, I feel like I have the chops to make this other genre, so why not do it?
100%, bro.
But also just exploration, right?
Yeah, and
But that
enjoying
was a
it.
great answer, by
Yeah.
the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that
Yeah.
I I'm on such a journey of finding my, well, I know who I've taken that journey, but it's still growing and whatnot, you
Yeah.
know, of identity and stuff. And they're like everything that I have isn't just like I woke up one day and I'm just like I'm me. It's like taking into account all of these experiences that you and I have, taking in the things that you've learned from, I try to learn from,
Yeah.
and having a place like this, a platform to where 10 years down the road, your son might be watching this video. You know what I mean?
I would hope. I
But
would
you get
hope,
what I'm
man. That's
saying
the
though,
dream.
right? And
Yeah.
like, you know, hopefully he'll, disregard the language and stuff, but that's such an important thing for some people, because, you know, if you
Yeah.
look at back then with all the classical music and stuff, they had the notation and stuff, and people were having these
Yeah.
conversations, but they're just not, it doesn't exist, you know?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
not only that, but we're not the only ones having these conversations. So it's an
Yeah.
invitation for people to resonate with you, to hopefully resonate with me, to join the community, and to get people on the same page about why we're doing this in the first place, I believe.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Did you have any other questions?
No, I mean, I honestly think that was like my main question, man. I mean, I feel like I could talk to you about this stuff for hours. So.
Yeah, for the same. And you always can. You can always reach out to me.
Oh
I
yeah,
extend that to the
absolutely,
community.
man.
You can always hit me up. We talk
Oh,
about,
for sure.
we can chat about music. If you don't have somebody, you're more than welcome to join my community or mix and match and all that stuff. I want
Yeah,
to know
man.
about when you're putting music out. I want to know about your projects that you're doing. And I want you to feel like you are welcome to whatever establishment I've created by chance. Otis Bay
Of
says,
course, man.
going deep on a musical genre you make seems like a typical process. Then once you break out of that genre, it opens up. I don't know if anyone has had the same experience. Okay, so if
Yeah,
you
I
don't
would
mind, I'll
agree
take
with
this
that,
one,
yeah.
or I'll
Go for it.
start. So most of you know that I do martial arts. This martial art that I this martial art that I practice, elements from a lot of different basics. And what it's designed to do is to teach you how everything is related, you know, so go from punching to kicking to throwing to whatever. When you master this, I wouldn't say master, but when you become proficient at it, you usually go into a specialty. But the number one thing, regardless of if you start from the widespread or if you start from a particular thing, is that you're not coming to learn the thing, you're coming to learn from the thing. You know, it's not about, oh, I know how to halftime. It's more of like, oh, I know how to problem solve. So how can I use this problem solving process that I have realized into whatever else you're going? You play first person shooters, Call of Duty is your thing. Well, guess what? You know how to aim down sights, you know how to shoot, you know how to do all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But you take that
Yeah.
and you learn from that experience, and you relate your experience into the new thing that you are trying to, you know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
meet, I guess, or problem solve, for a positive way to put it.
Yeah, 100%. No, I honestly don't even have anything to add to that, dude. I think that was incredibly articulate. I would say that I feel like because I've done music for so many years, when I got into software and becoming a software developer, which was a very challenging journey for myself.
bet.
This was like back in like 2013, 2014. It did make it easier knowing that I just had the ability to sit down and work on something for like 10 hours straight. And like that's something that you kind of see that a lot of people aren't willing to do, which
Right.
is like they're just not willing to be heads down, and like that's the skill. It's like doing music is like just the glitching stuff alone, man. It's like, yeah, I
It's time
spent
consuming.
3 hours on like yeah, like today I spent 3 hours on like 16 bars or something like that, constantly listening to it over and over again, and until I get it to a point that I like. It's like there's a certain amount of kind of like diligence there where
Yeah.
you take that with you into other stuff. It's like, yeah, I'll go and learn this other new thing that's very hard, that'll help me or whatever, right? So I think that's a big part of it too.
You know what it takes to cultivate, you know? It's
Yeah,
meeting adversity, and we call it the indomitable spirit, not to be mythical or anything, but it's the indomitable
that's
spirit
okay.
of like, yo, because most people would not be willing to put 10 hours, especially as a beginner, into, a stupid track that they've only put together
Hmm.
using loops or
Hmm.
whatever. So it takes a particular kind of person to sit through that and to have that. And those, to me, are victories that you build upon. And
Yeah,
now,
absolutely.
and also like the things that you spend 10 hours on, hopefully at some point take you this much time because you've done
Yeah.
it a billion times. Me making like I make all my drums and stuff from scratch. They used to take me hours. Now it's just like
Yeah.
no, 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 no. Okay, there it is. Just use it. All right, there we go. Or just make the track. All these hiccups, these technical
Yeah.
things is usually what they are. Like I'm very keen on just being efficient to make stuff because what are we doing here? We're trying to make music, not sit here and troubleshoot and open a manual and ask questions and watch YouTube tutorials. We're trying to make tracks.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
get better at
Absolutely.
it. But I do have one more quick question for you.
Sorry, give me one quick.
Oh, you're fine. He died, never to be seen again.
No,
Oh, he's
sorry.
back.
I just,
No,
I
it's
just,
fine.
I'm up here.
No, it's
I
fine.
just I
No,
talked to
it's
my wife
fine.
for a sec. Yeah, no, go ahead. You
So
were gonna ask?
my last question, if it's okay with you, before we wrap
Yeah, yeah,
things
sure.
up, is I
That
am
sounds good.
curious to like, let's say you're gonna approach a fracture track, right? Can you just
Yeah.
walk us through a basic process about how you might do things and how you might start and where you might end up?
So I think the first thing I start with is like I need to find inspiration in either the drum pattern or three areas. It's like the drum pattern or some atmospheric elements like a chord that I'll apply a bunch of like just build an effects chain on top of, or a single bass line that I don't do that much processing to. Um, and it's kind of like you could think of it like a flow chart where one of these things and
Branch
then
off.
yeah then
Yeah.
you have to inject the feeling into it and the emotion, um, which I think by the way is like something that is not necessarily always present, but it is something that you get more over time, right, with practice. But yeah, so like either create a drum pattern, or create like a just play out a single chord with some with the basic synth, put some I don't know, a bit of reverb or delay or something on it, or just create a single bass line, and then just kind of jump back and forth from those three main elements until I create just like a groove or a loop of those things that I like. Um, like now, like I like to work a lot in Ableton now. I still do all my actual main composition and finalization stuff in Cubase, just out of habit, whatever, shitty habit maybe.
We don't
Um,
care.
but like I like starting in Ableton because of the whole like session view, and then also have all my like MIDI controllers and stuff hooked up too. So I just throw a bunch of parameters into some knobs, and I'll just like play some of the clips and mess around with the knobs and stuff to kind of get a vibe that I like. But that's kind of how it starts, and usually it's building the climax first. So it's like, I guess I don't know if is reductive the right word. It's like
Redactive,
I'll build like
maybe?
I don't know. Well, so essentially, I mean, whatever.
Sure.
Maybe I don't
Yeah.
know the word for it, but it's like I create a vertical slice of the track that I like a lot. Like vertical slice, meaning like a vertical slice of cake or whatever. It's like has all the main ingredients. Yeah,
Mhm.
has a little bit of all of the main ingredients of like maybe the climax, like 16 bar loop of the track. And then I'll get that first, some draft of that I really like, and that'll include drums, that'll include bass, that'll include atmospheric elements, that'll include some kind of lead melody, that'll include whatever. Like I try to omit transitional effects. I think that's like a different thing.
Later
Like
stage,
no
I agree.
no cloche sound or cymbals or
Right.
whatever, anything like that. I try to keep it a little bit drier on that side, and then I just work backwards. I'm like, okay, how can I transform this now into like the build up version? How can I transform this now into a breakdown?
Deconstruct, right? Yeah.
And then it's like, how do I create some variations of this? Like you'll hear in some of my music, it's like I'll have a variation, and then I'll like suddenly kind of transform the chord progression as for the climax of the song or whatever. That's kind of how it is, man. And then beyond that, it's just constantly listening to that. Like there's no secret sauce here. I think in my production techniques, it's like I just keep listening to the track over and over again, um, and then just go straight up by mood and expression. It's like, okay, this sounds cool here. Oh, this sounds cool. Oh, it'd be nice if there's a little guitar here. It'd be nice if there was a little bit of. It'd be nice if I like froze this other whatever VST and like bumped it down and like reversed it and then like did some other stuff to it, and you just kind of keep mixing,
Resampling,
flipping and like mixing and resampling and sampling your own stuff and blah blah blah, get in there, and then that's like how I get to a refined sort of spot.
So
That's my whole like production technique in a nutshell, man, honestly.
Thank you for sharing that. In light of that, I have two more questions for you. They're very yes or no questions.
Go ahead. Yeah.
One is, have you heard of rolling sampler?
Rolling sampler, no.
All right.
Is that?
If you have like 2 minutes after stream, let me show you what that is. The second question is, do you have Live 12?
I think so. I mean, which?
We're on 12
No,
now.
actually, I'm still on 11. No,
Okay.
I'm still on 11. I have the 11 suite. Yeah.
If you get to 12, I've got this pack that I use that is basically a single preset that does everything: bass, drums, percussion, pads, plucks. It's designed to be the most efficient approach to getting pretty much a sound suite to work with, and then you can later replace it with stuff or put other effects onto it. It'll destroy your CPU, but you'll love it. If you get Live 12, if you get Live 12, then I'll send that to you. But the rolling sampler thing was one of the biggest major changes in my life with production, because what it does is it's constantly recording in the back, and it's saving to your RAM. But anything that you put it on, I just put it on my master and leave it there. So if I make a really cool sound when I'm experimenting or something, I'm like, oh, that was sick. You just pull it out from the timeline, and it goes into a folder, and then it's saved to your hard drive.
That's so sick. That's such an insane time saver, man. I already can see how that would save me a bajillion hours, because I will manually just like select a section of the track, mute other track, like solo it or whatever, bump it to audio or freeze it, and then drop it back in. So, okay.
It'll change your life, bro. Shout out to Birds
Things.
Things.
Will change my life.
I am not like affiliated with them by any means, or like sponsored or whatever. But freaking rolling sampler, the thing on Cake Slice, that was the answer I was looking for years. Something that you might want to look into, Autistic Ice Cream, is something called the Super Loop. Il Gates has a thing on that, but basically what he's describing is that he'll make the main section as interesting as possible, maybe even mute stuff for variations, and then once he's got that super loop, then all you have to do is deconstruct it, pull it apart, right? And to kind of add to that, in a very similar way that I work, is not totally super loop-esque, but what I do is main idea, and then intro, outro. And the way that I make my intro is I say, what can I take from the main section to introduce the idea, then what can I use to let the idea go, and then that outro can become a bridge, or it can become a break or whatever, and go into another variation, duplicate and variate, or it could just be a 1 minute 30-second hip-hop beat, because I love the beat tape style-esque things, so just to add to it, because I do a similar thing as well. If you ever look at Saruda, Saruda is a halftime future beat producer and stuff. He's one of my favorite artists. But what is really cool is that he's got some live streams from Jose, and what's sick about him is that he does what we're talking about here, but when he has a vibe, he'll mute all the tracks and then do it again, and then mute all the tracks and do it again. And then what he does is he picks one musical element, or two, usually one, and he'll introduce the musical element, then play all of his things over time in his arrangement, and then go back to the musical idea. It's fucking sick. It's freaking sick.
That's crazy.
Actually, if you listen to his music, you'll hear it and stuff, and it's very profound in the way that he does it, and obviously like he pulls it off extremely well. But I've kind of cracked that code of not how to make music like Saruda, but the arrangement aspect of it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so
I do think there are different modes of music production, though. Like there's a fun mode, and then there's a let's actually make a track mode.
Fair.
I think you need to do both. You can't do one. So that's like, for me, sometimes I'm like, that all that stuff I said about like a vertical slice or whatever, I kind of throw it out the window, and I'm like, fun mode. Let's like just open up random plugins and just make cool sounds and like, oh, let's just see. You have like no objective for what the end of the session is supposed to even be. You're not trying to export anything at all. It's literally just a
Sounds.
sandbox, and I just try to remind myself of how fun it was when I was a kid, when all of this was just a big toy for me and less of a tool for like, making something that has to sound good. But then there's obviously production mode, and you should also, I think, yeah, you should still be serious about that, like sitting down and actually honing your craft and making something and structuring it and et cetera, et cetera. But
Are you?
yeah,
Sorry, bro.
yeah, go
I
ahead.
agree with
No,
you.
no,
Are you
good.
familiar with audiation?
Audio, like, no, I don't think so.
So
I'm not
no,
sure. Like,
totally cool.
what
No,
does that mean? Like, is it a plugin? Is it just a term?
no, it's actually like an academic term that Corey, my partner, taught
Okay.
me. But what it is cultivation of the skill of basically vocalizing and imagining the sounds in your head or the arrangement in
Oh,
your
okay.
head, and then projecting that outward. And it's just something that you can cultivate. But to me, that is very akin to intention. Whereas
Yeah.
the other side that you're talking about, the fun part to me is discovery, and not to like
Yeah, yeah.
shove it into a category because it looks
No,
different.
no, yeah, yeah.
But just as a means of, I agree, there's a time to be methodical with, when you have an idea and you want to hold on to it. And there also needs to be a time to where you don't put yourself into such a box of being like, you know what, I always start with drums, so today I'm going to do something completely different. You know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
always
yeah.
start with the super loop, so this time I'm going to write the intro first. I always start with XYZ. So I've got a very particular way of how I work, which we can talk about sometime if you're interested. But it's like
Yeah, yeah.
not even like, especially if you're doing stuff from scratch, it's like, okay, well, how does somebody get things into the DAW when it's completely empty? And that's kind of what my channel is
Yeah.
about being like, all right,
Yeah,
here
yeah.
we go, here's all the stuff. And it's cool, and I've gotten so much insight from people, including from people giving their takes on that. And now I've got all these huge categories and stuff that I can be like, all right, let's just pick one out of a hat and be like,
Yeah.
let's make something out of this. Sorry, tangent. And I hope that didn't
No,
sound like I was
that's great.
bragging, but just as a means of
No, it did not at all.
resonating with an agreement of that. So in
Yeah,
light of that,
absolutely.
guys, please do me a favor, go subscribe to Fracture. You are on Spotify, you are on SoundCloud still, right?
Yeah, I have a playlist on Spotify that I think captures
Can
a lot of
you
my work.
can you link that
I'll
to
just
me?
send it to you right now.
Yeah, and I'll put it in chat.
Um,
And then also put it
it's
in the
literally
description.
just called Progressive Breaks by Fracture. That's it. So
Yeah,
I
dude,
think,
that's so cool. Your
that
music.
encompasses, and that has some of my most recent work in it as well.
Oh, really?
And also, yeah, and also, like, I'll be honest, like, just my Bandcamp, like that and my Bandcamp. In terms of, if you actually want to hear my music, just I can give you my.
I always
I
say,
mean, yeah.
no,
Sorry,
no,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I think I'm still trying to figure out how I want to put stuff out. Like, I like my YouTube channel as being a place where I share, I guess, like, in a way smaller version of like the type of videos that you put out. And I think you do a lot of stuff on your channel, which is awesome, by the way. I actually did. My wife and I were looking at some of your videos together.
Oh, thanks.
When I told her, yeah, and we were like, yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
Thank you.
So I'm still trying to figure out like the content creation aspect. Like, I like making. I do want to do more sound design, workflow, just fun stuff like jams on YouTube. But my actual music, I think the best places to find them are maybe that playlist I linked, and then my Bandcamp. Yeah, those have a lot of the stuff that will kind of contain it all. If that makes sense.
And we can have a small chat after stream about content creation and stuff too. And
Sure,
I'd be more
sure,
than
yeah.
happy to help you sort your thoughts to maybe figuring out what you want to do with it if you want that kind of advice. To everybody else,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
dude, thank you for one, dude. Fracture, thank you so much for coming in and joining me today. You're always welcome on the channel, as I say with all of my guests, because you guys are just fucking awesome. Thank you to my viewers and anybody else who
Yeah.
watches this in the past, or like as this VOD comes back up or whatever. I had a great time chatting, man. Thank you, and you're
Oh,
always
yeah,
welcome.
Same here, man. I had a really good
uh,
time treading.
Yeah, definitely have to stay in touch and continue these talks and whatnot. To everybody else, we're gonna call it here. Thanks so much, and go support Fracture and check out his tunes and enjoy yourselves, because you're in for a good time if you do. We will see you later. See you, machine.
Yeah.
Oh, what the fuck? Ah,
Thank
shit.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, I hope to come back on the channel and get more insights from all of you as well. So, thank you.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.